Think you know everything about Spike Lee's groundbreaking HBCU musical? Think again. From real fights breaking out on camera to college presidents objecting to actors being too dark-skinned, School Daze harbors some of the most bizarre behind-the-scenes secrets in film history. These shocking revelations about colorism controversies, method acting gone wrong, and studio sabotage will completely change how you view this 1988 classic. Fact 1. Spike Lee made actors fight for real. When you watch the intense step show confrontation between DAP's crew and the Gamma Phi Gamma fraternity in School Daze, you're witnessing something that director Spike Lee never planned to capture on film. The explosive fight that erupts during this pivotal scene wasn't written in the script, rehearsed by the actors, or choreographed by the stunt team. Instead, it was genuine animosity between two groups of cast members that had been building throughout the entire production, and it finally boiled over right in front of the rolling cameras. Lee had deliberately created tension on set by housing the actors playing the light-skinned wannabes in better hotel accommodations than those portraying the darker-skinned jigaboos. This method acting approach was designed to mirror the class and color divisions that the film explored, but it also created real resentment between the two camps of performers. The favoritism in treatment led to authentic hostility that you can see simmering throughout the movie. When filming began on the step show sequence, all of this pent-up tension reached its breaking point. What started as a scripted dance battle suddenly turned into an actual physical altercation as the real animosity between the actors exploded into genuine conflict. Rather than calling cut and breaking up the fight, Lee made a split-second directorial decision that would become one of the film's most memorable moments. He ordered the camera operators to keep filming, capturing the raw, unscripted violence as it unfolded. This spontaneous moment of real conflict gave the scene an authentic intensity that no amount of acting or choreography could have achieved. The genuine emotions and physical confrontation you see on screen reflect the very real divisions that Lee was exploring in his story, about colorism and class warfare within the black community at a historically black college. Fact 2. Hotels were segregated by character type. Spike Lee took method acting to an extreme level during the filming of School Daze by literally segregating his cast based on the characters they were playing. The director deliberately booked the actors portraying the light-skinned wannabe sorority sisters into nicer, more luxurious hotel rooms, while the performers playing the darker-skinned jigaboo characters were housed in significantly inferior accommodations. This wasn't an accident or a budget oversight, but a calculated psychological manipulation designed to create genuine resentment and tension between the two groups of actors. Lee's strategy was inspired by similar tactics used in other Hollywood productions, most notably during the filming of Animal House, where directors had employed comparable methods to generate authentic conflict between rival groups of characters. The difference in treatment wasn't subtle either. The wannabe actors enjoyed better amenities, room service, and overall comfort, while their jigaboo counterparts dealt with lesser quality lodging that made the disparity impossible to ignore. This deliberate inequality served a specific purpose, beyond just creating drama on set. School Daze explored the painful reality of colorism within the black community, particularly the way lighter-skinned individuals often received preferential treatment over their darker-skinned peers. By forcing his actors to live this experience in real life, Lee ensured that the emotions they brought to their performances would be rooted in genuine feelings rather than just acting techniques. The hotel segregation became so effective at generating authentic animosity that it contributed directly to the real tensions that exploded during filming. The actors playing jigaboos developed legitimate grievances against their wannabe counterparts, knowing they were literally being treated as second-class citizens by the production. This real-world inequality translated into the powerful on-screen chemistry and conflict that made the film's exploration of colorism so convincing and emotionally resonant. Fact 3. Kicked off campus for colorism concerns. The most shocking controversy surrounding School Daze occurred when Spike Lee's own alma mater, Morehouse College, banned the production from campus after just 2 weeks of filming. What makes this story even more disturbing is the reason behind the ban. which revealed the very colorism issues that Lee was trying to expose in his film. Hugh Morris Gloucester, who served as president of Morehouse College at the time, objected to several aspects of the production, but his most troubling complaint centered on Lee's casting choice for the fictional college president. Gloucester specifically told Lee that he didn't like the actor chosen to play the college president because the man looked too much like a Sambo, using a deeply offensive racial stereotype to describe Joe Seneca, a respected veteran actor who happened to have darker skin. Lee later recounted this conversation in interviews, explaining how the real college president said these words directly to his face during a meeting where Lee was desperately trying to convince the administration to let filming continue on campus. This incident was particularly painful for Lee because Morehouse was his own college, where he had graduated in 1979, and the rejection felt deeply personal. The irony wasn't lost on anyone involved that a film exploring colorism and prejudice within the black community was being rejected by a black institution for exactly those same reasons. Lee realized in that moment that his film was addressing real problems, when the actual president of a historically black college was expressing the same color-based prejudices that the movie sought to criticize. After being kicked off the Morehouse campus, along with Spelman College, Clark Atlanta University, and Morris Brown College, Lee had to finish filming at Atlanta University instead. The controversy was so significant that Lee wasn't welcomed back to Morehouse for several years, until long after Gloucester had left his position as president. Fact 4. Jesse Jackson blessed the production. During one of the most turbulent periods of School Daze's production, when Spike Lee was facing mounting pressure from college administrators and dealing with cast tensions, an unexpected visitor arrived on the Atlanta set to offer spiritual support. Reverend Jesse Jackson, one of the most prominent civil rights leaders in America, made a special trip to the filming location to personally bless the troubled production and show his support for Lee's controversial project. Jackson's visit came at a crucial time when the film was generating significant controversy within the black community, particularly among historically black college administrators who were concerned about how the movie would portray their institutions. Many officials at black colleges were attacking the film for its use of racial language and its unflinching examination of colorism and class divisions within the African American community. Some critics worried that School Daze would air what they considered to be private issues that shouldn't be discussed publicly. The civil rights leader's blessing carried enormous symbolic weight, especially given the film's central themes about political activism and social consciousness. Jackson understood that Lee was attempting to tackle difficult conversations about identity, privilege, and responsibility within the black community, topics that many people preferred to keep private. His presence on set served as a powerful endorsement of the film's mission to address these uncomfortable but necessary discussions. Jackson's visit also provided moral support for Lee during a particularly challenging phase of production. The director was dealing with being banned from multiple college campuses, managing real tensions between his cast members, and facing criticism from various corners of the black community. Having such a respected figure validate the importance of the film's message helped reinforce Lee's conviction that he was doing important work even when it made people uncomfortable or sparked heated debates about how black stories should be told on screen. Fact 5. Cinematographer made 500 extras look like 5,000. One of the most impressive visual tricks in School Daze involved cinematographer Ernest Dickerson's brilliant manipulation of crowd scenes to create the illusion of massive gatherings on a relatively modest budget. When you watch the film's spectacular musical numbers and see what appears to be thousands of college students filling the screen, you're actually looking at only 500 extras who were strategically positioned and filmed to appear 10 times larger than their actual number. Dickerson achieved this remarkable feat through a combination of clever camera angles, strategic lighting, and careful choreography that maximized the visual impact of every person on screen. He used techniques like shooting from elevated positions to capture wider views of the crowd, employing depth of field to blur background figures and create the impression of endless rows of people, and utilizing movement patterns that made the same groups of extras appear in multiple parts of the frame without being obviously recognizable. This creative approach was born out of necessity. as School Daze had a budget of $6.1 million, which was substantial for an independent film but still required careful resource management for such an ambitious musical production. The film featured 8 major musical numbers and crowd scenes that stretched for a quarter of a mile into the darkness, creating logistical challenges that demanded innovative solutions rather than simply hiring thousands of additional performers. Dickerson's background in low-budget filmmaking proved invaluable for this project, as he had previously worked on films like Brother from Another Planet, which was shot in just 25 days, and Crush Groove, completed in 24 days. His experience with maximizing limited resources helped create what industry observers described as a $6 million movie that looked like it cost $15 million. Largely due to these crowd manipulation techniques that gave School Daze its epic, grand-scale appearance. Fact 6. Vanessa Williams was originally cast. Before Tisha Campbell became the memorable Jane Toussaint in School Daze, Spike Lee had originally cast Vanessa Williams in the role, but the former Miss America winner ultimately withdrew from the project due to concerns about how certain scenes might affect her public image. Williams had been dealing with the fallout from a major scandal that had forced her to resign her Miss America crown in 1984, when unauthorized nude photographs of her were published in Penthouse magazine, creating a media firestorm that threatened to derail her entertainment career. The role of Jane Toussaint included several intimate scenes, most notably a controversial sequence where the character is pressured into sleeping with Half Pint as part of his fraternity initiation process. Williams was reportedly uncomfortable with performing these scenes at a time when she was actively working to rehabilitate her public image and establish herself as a serious entertainer. Her debut album, The Right Stuff, was scheduled for release in 1988, the same year School Daze would hit theaters, making the timing particularly sensitive for her career trajectory. According to various sources, Williams turned down the role because she was trying to clean up her image after the nude photo scandal and didn't want to participate in scenes that might remind audiences of her past controversies or generate additional negative publicity. Some reports also suggested that Williams was pregnant with her daughter Melanie at the time, which may have factored into her decision to decline the role. When Williams withdrew from the project, Lee cast Tisha Campbell, who had impressed him with her singing ability when she appeared in Little Shop of Horrors. Campbell brought her own energy and interpretation to the character, ultimately making Jane Toussaint one of the film's most memorable roles and helping to launch her own successful career in both music and television. Fact 7. The last words connect to Do the Right Thing. Spike Lee created one of cinema's most clever connections between two of his films by using the exact same phrase to end School Daze and begin his next movie, Do the Right Thing. The final words spoken in School Daze are, "Wake up," delivered by Lawrence Fishburne's character Dap as he breaks the fourth wall and speaks directly to the audience, urging them to become conscious of the social issues the film has just explored. 1 year later, those identical words became the very first dialogue heard in Do the Right Thing, spoken by Samuel L. Jackson's character as he begins his radio broadcast. This deliberate repetition wasn't just a coincidence or a clever callback, but rather a purposeful artistic choice that created a thematic bridge between the two films. Both movies deal with racial tensions, social consciousness, and the need for people to become aware of the problems surrounding them, making "Wake Up" a perfect connecting phrase that reinforced Lee's central message across multiple projects. The phrase essentially served as Lee's signature call to action, challenging audiences to pay attention to important social issues rather than remaining passive or indifferent. Lee has revealed in interviews that he continued to incorporate this "wake up" message throughout his career, finding ways to include the phrase in almost every film he made after School Daze. The repetition became a trademark element that tied his work together and emphasized his role as a filmmaker who wanted to educate and activate his audiences rather than simply entertain them. The connection between these two films became even more meaningful when you consider that School Daze focused on issues within the Black community at a college campus, while Do the Right Thing expanded the scope to examine racial tensions in a Brooklyn neighborhood, showing Lee's evolution as a storyteller while maintaining his core message about the importance of social awareness and activism. Fact 8. Tisha Campbell sued for $550,000. Just 4 months after School Daze hit theaters, Tisha Campbell shocked the entertainment industry by filing a $550,000 lawsuit against Spike Lee, alleging that the director had failed to pay her for her musical contributions to the film's soundtrack and had denied her proper credit for her work on the song "Be Alone Tonight." The lawsuit, filed in June 1988, created a major controversy that overshadowed much of the film's success and highlighted the complex business relationships that often develop between directors and their performers. Campbell's legal complaint centered on her claim that she had made significant contributions to the School Daze soundtrack beyond just her acting performance, particularly her vocal work on "Be Alone Tonight," which became one of the album's standout tracks. She argued that her musical contributions deserved both financial compensation and official recognition in the film's credits, neither of which she had received according to the terms she believed had been agreed upon during production. The timing of the lawsuit was particularly striking because it came at a moment when Campbell was experiencing career momentum from her role in the film. School Daze had showcased her singing abilities to a wide audience and helped establish her as a multi-talented performer who could handle both dramatic acting and musical numbers with equal skill. The legal dispute threatened to damage her working relationship with Lee and potentially impact her rising career in the entertainment industry. The lawsuit also revealed the sometimes complicated financial arrangements that can exist in independent film productions, where actors might contribute work beyond their primary roles with the expectation of additional compensation or credit. Campbell's case highlighted how these informal agreements could lead to disputes when the terms weren't clearly documented, or when different parties had different understandings of what had been promised during the creative process. Fact 9. Fashion designer Willi Smith created gowns. Spike Lee brought high fashion credibility to School Daze by commissioning acclaimed designer Willi Smith to create the stunning gowns worn by the homecoming court in the film's elaborate coronation sequence. Smith, who was one of the most respected African-American fashion designers of the 1980s, was personally encouraged by Lee to contribute his expertise to the production, elevating the film's costume design far beyond what most independent movies could afford or achieve. Willi Smith had already established himself as a major force in American fashion through his Williwear label, which had gained recognition for making high-quality, stylish clothing accessible to a broader audience than traditional haute couture. His designs were known for their clean lines, bold colors, and sophisticated approach to casual elegance, making him the perfect choice to create gowns that would capture the glamour and prestige associated with homecoming royalty at a historically black college. The decision to involve Smith wasn't just about getting beautiful costumes for the film, but also about authentically representing the culture and traditions of black college life. Homecoming celebrations at historically black colleges and universities are major social events where fashion plays a crucial role, and the gowns worn by the homecoming court are often elaborate, expensive creations that reflect the importance of the occasion. By hiring a designer of Smith's caliber, Lee ensured that these costumes would look genuinely luxurious and appropriate for the setting. Smith's contribution was part of a larger effort by costume designer Ruth E. Carter, who drew inspiration from actual uniforms and styles worn at historically black colleges and universities throughout the country. The collaboration between Carter and Smith created a visual authenticity that helped ground the film's more fantastical musical numbers in the real traditions and aesthetics of black college culture, making the entire production feel more credible and respectful to the communities it was depicting. Fact 10. It was the first black studio-funded musical. School Daze broke significant ground in Hollywood history by becoming the first major studio-funded musical ever directed by a black filmmaker, marking a milestone that highlighted just how limited opportunities had been for African-American directors in the entertainment industry. When Columbia Pictures greenlit the project with a budget of $6.1 million, they were making an unprecedented investment in a genre that had previously been exclusively controlled by white directors and producers in the major studio system. The significance of this achievement becomes even more apparent when you consider the musical genre's long history in Hollywood. stretching back to the earliest days of talking pictures in the 1920s and 30s. Major studios had produced hundreds of musicals over the decades, featuring elaborate song and dance numbers, large casts, and substantial budgets, but none of these productions had ever been entrusted to a black director until Spike Lee came along with his ambitious vision for School Daze. This breakthrough came at a time when Lee was still establishing himself as a filmmaker, having only completed one previous feature film, the low-budget independent success She's Gotta Have It, which was made for just $175,000. The enormous jump from that modest independent production to a major studio musical represented both a vote of confidence in Lee's abilities and a recognition that black filmmakers could handle large-scale, complex productions that required coordination of multiple musical numbers, large casts, and sophisticated production values. The historic nature of this achievement was particularly meaningful because musicals had traditionally been one of Hollywood's most prestigious and expensive genres, often serving as showcase vehicles for major stars and representing the pinnacle of studio craftsmanship. By breaking this barrier, Lee opened doors for future black filmmakers and demonstrated that diverse voices could bring fresh perspectives to established Hollywood genres while maintaining commercial appeal. Fact 11. Tisha Campbell didn't know what jigaboo meant. In a revealing admission that highlighted just how controversial and provocative School Daze would become, Tisha Campbell confessed that she had absolutely no idea what the word jigaboo meant when she first joined the project. This surprising revelation demonstrated how Spike Lee's film was prepared to venture into territory that many people, even within the black community, had never openly discussed or confronted in such a direct manner. Campbell's unfamiliarity with this particular racial slur reflected the fact that Lee was deliberately bringing uncomfortable and often unspoken issues about colorism to the forefront of his story. The term jigaboo is a derogatory word historically used to describe darker-skinned black people, and in the context of School Daze, it became one of the central elements in the film's exploration of how light-skinned and dark-skinned African Americans sometimes treated each other with prejudice and hostility. The actress's honest admission about her ignorance of the term's meaning also illustrated how sheltered some performers were from the harsh realities of intra-racial discrimination that Lee wanted to expose. Campbell had grown up in a different environment where these particular forms of colorism-based insults weren't part of her everyday experience, making her education about the word's significance a learning process that mirrored what many audience members would go through when watching the film. This lack of awareness among some cast members actually served Lee's purposes in many ways, because it meant that actors like Campbell had to genuinely grapple with these difficult concepts during filming, bringing authentic emotional responses to scenes that dealt with painful divisions within the black community. Her journey from ignorance to understanding about the term's hurtful implications became part of the larger educational experience that School Daze was designed to provide for audiences who might be similarly unaware of how colorism operated in their own communities. Fact 12. Many cast members appeared on a different world. School Daze served as an unofficial launching pad for what would become one of television's most beloved college-themed series, as numerous actors from the film went on to become principal cast members on A Different World, the Cosby Show spin-off that focused on life at the fictional historically black college called Hillman. The overlap between the two productions was so significant that watching both feels like observing the same community of performers exploring similar themes about black college life across different mediums. Kadeem Hardison, Daryl M. Bell, and Jasmine Guy became three of the most recognizable faces on A Different World, with Hardison playing the memorable character Dwayne Wayne and his iconic flip-up glasses becoming a cultural phenomenon. Bell portrayed Ron Johnson, while Guy played the sophisticated Whitley Gilbert, and all three brought the same energy and chemistry to the television series that they had displayed in Lee's film. The timing worked perfectly, as A Different World was just beginning its first season when School Daze hit theaters in February 1988. The connection between the two productions extended beyond just these three main actors, as several other School Daze performers also appeared in various episodes of A Different World throughout its six-season run. Tisha Campbell made appearances on the show, as did Art Evans, Guy Killam, Roger Guenveur-Smith, and Dominic Hoffman, creating a continuous thread of talent that moved between the film and television versions of historically black college stories. This crossover phenomenon highlighted how both School Daze and A Different World were drawing from the same pool of young black actors who were perfectly suited to portray college students and explore the complex social dynamics of historically black colleges and universities. The shared casting also helped establish a particular aesthetic and performance style that became associated with stories about black college life during the late 1980s and early 1990s. Fact 13. Da Butt hit 1001 and inspired Glenn Close. The infectious go-go song Da Butt by the Washington, D.C. band EU, which was written by Marcus Miller and Mark Stevens specifically for School Daze, became one of 1988's biggest musical hits when it climbed all the way to number 1 on Billboard's R&B chart and reached number 35 on the pop chart. The song's success helped introduce go-go music, a uniquely DC style of funk, to audiences across the country who had never heard this particular genre before, and it became so popular that VH1 later ranked it number 61 on their list of the greatest one-hit wonders of the 80s. What makes this song's legacy even more remarkable is how it gained completely unexpected renewed fame more than 3 decades later, during the 2021 Academy Awards ceremony. During a trivia segment hosted by DJ Questlove, actress Glenn Close was asked to identify whether various songs had won Oscars, been nominated, or received no recognition at all. When Da Butt started playing, Close not only correctly identified the song and the movie it came from, but she also shocked the audience by getting up and performing the signature dance moves with impressive skill and enthusiasm. The moment became an instant viral sensation, with millions of people sharing videos of the 74-year-old actress's unexpected performance on social media platforms around the world. Gregory Sugar Bear Elliott, the frontman of EU, was watching basketball highlights when his phone started going crazy with notifications about Close's dance, and he later said the experience felt like winning the lottery. He gave Close's performance a perfect 10 out of 10 rating and admitted that she looked like she had done Da Butt before. This unlikely connection between a 1980s go-go song and a respected dramatic actress created one of the most memorable moments in recent Academy Awards history, proving that School Daze's cultural impact continues to surprise people decades after its original release. Fact 14. Matching knee pads were actors' choice. One of the most memorable costume details in School Daze's famous straight and nappy musical number came about through the actors' own creative initiative, rather than any official wardrobe decision. The matching knee pads worn by Kym and Tisha Campbell during this elaborate dance sequence that pitted good hair against bad hair weren't part of Ruth E. Carter's carefully designed costume plan, but were instead added by the actresses themselves as a practical solution to the demanding choreography they had to perform. The straight and nappy scene required the performers to execute complex dance moves that involved a lot of floor work, spinning, and dramatic poses that would have been uncomfortable or even dangerous to perform without proper protection. Rather than risking injury or dealing with the discomfort of performing these moves on hard surfaces, Campbell and Kym decided to add the knee pads to their costumes, creating a look that became an iconic part of the scene's visual identity. What makes this detail particularly interesting is how the actress's practical decision ended up perfectly complementing the scene's athletic and competitive energy. The knee pads gave the performers a sporty, almost warrior-like appearance that enhanced the battle-like nature of the musical number, where the two groups of women were essentially fighting over issues of beauty standards and identity within the black community. This behind-the-scenes choice also demonstrates how the cast members were actively involved in solving problems and contributing to the creative process beyond just following directions. The fact that such a small wardrobe addition became a memorable part of one of the film's most talked-about scenes shows how collaborative filmmaking can sometimes produce the best results when actors are given the freedom to make practical decisions that serve both their performance needs and the overall artistic vision of the project. Fact 15. Alicia Keys recreated scenes in music video. 20 years after School Daze first hit theaters, R&B superstar Alicia Keys paid tribute to Spike Lee's groundbreaking film by recreating several of its most memorable scenes in her music video for Teenage Love Affair in 2008. The homage wasn't subtle or accidental, but rather a deliberate and detailed recreation that showed Key's deep appreciation for the cultural impact that School Daze had made on Black entertainment and her own artistic development. Keyes meticulously recreated 3 of the film's most iconic sequences in her music video, starting with the campus rally scene where Dapp leads his anti-apartheid demonstration in front of the school building. She also paid homage to the pajama party sequence, capturing the intimate dormitory atmosphere where the female students bond and share their thoughts about college life and relationships. The third major recreation focused on the elaborate coronation performance, where Tisha Campbell's character Jane performs as part of the homecoming court celebration. The attention to detail in Key's tribute was remarkable, as she worked to match not only the visual composition and staging of these scenes, but also the energy and spirit that made them so memorable in the original film. Her music video served as both a celebration of School Daze's lasting influence and a way to introduce the film's themes and aesthetics to a new generation of viewers who might not have been familiar with Lee's work. This homage also demonstrated how School Daze had become a cultural touchstone for Black artists and entertainers, particularly those who wanted to explore themes related to education, identity, and community. Keyes' decision to reference the film in her own work showed how Lee's vision had continued to inspire musicians and visual artists long after its original release, proving that the movie's impact extended far beyond just cinema into broader areas of Black popular culture and artistic expression.